Montgomery County. And he brought Holly, and I still can't say her last name.
Gibbs. Oh.
She's going to be Holly Gibbs to me for the rest of her life, so there you go. So we'd like to welcome David Ralston today. And I'd also like to say a personal thanks to David, because we went to the Farm Bureau dinner the other night and toured the new cannery, which we are so proud of, and we thank you so much for that. All right, I'm going to turn this over to David.
Well, thank you very much, Jody, and wow, thank y'all for inviting me here. I always look forward to visiting with this group. Y'all get younger looking every year. So, always good to see a lot of friends and former teachers and people who I blame y'all for anything that I do wrong, because that's why I went to school here. So. But thank you so much for having me, and it's great to visit with you. I want to start. She mentioned I've got to get back down to the Capitol because we're dealing with the storm aftermath here in Georgia, and I want to tell you that I have never been prouder of the response that our state has had to what has been a tremendous storm. Hurricane Irma has really brought a lot of destruction to the state. Got word just a while ago. They're still not letting people back into Glenn County. Glenn County and many areas along the coast were hit really hard. I know that a lot of the attention in the national media has been focused on Florida, and they have been hit in a very, very destructive way. But we've taken our own licks here, and we're trying to deal with those. But I've been very, very proud of our National Guard, our State Patrol, our DNR personnel, and all of the local and state first responders that have really worked around the clock and have worked very hard. And so I would ask you to say a prayer for all of those people and for the people that have been impacted by this very, very significant storm. I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of hurricanes for this year. We may have more to go, so not much we can do except be prepared and pray. So, but thank you again for letting me be here, and I appreciate Jody giving a little shout out to Holly. I'm kind of partial when it comes to hiring people at the Capitol. People from Gilmer and Fannin, they go to the front of the line. But I can tell you a little story about Holly. She's a little nervous today. She says there's too many former principals and teachers in the room, and so she's afraid that she'll have to encounter some of y'all the way she did when she was in school. And I'll tell you a true story, though. I hired Holly on a temporary basis before I ever met her. You know, the political environment has gotten pretty tough. And so I've decided that I'm going to get tough with it. My mom was not real happy about that, but she's learning to live with it. So after I went through a little election here a few years ago, Holly's dad came to see me, and Holly was getting ready to graduate and wanted me to see if I could help her out on a job. And I said, yeah, I'll see what I can do, you know. And he said, well, you have to know she's got a little spunk. He says she holds the record at Berry College in women's basketball for committing the most technical fouls. I said, she's hired. So I brought her on temporary. She stayed with us a session, and then we hired her full-time, and she does a great, great job, and I know that's due in large part to many people in this room. So she's a great credit to this community. So you can pay me later. It's always good to be with people that have contributed so much to our community, and certainly our educators that have taught in our school system here are due a great shout out. You have touched lives and left a great legacy here, and for that, this community and I am very grateful. You know, I'll talk a little bit in a minute about the teacher retirement system, but I always use the word when I come talk to you and tell you about it that I view that as keeping a covenant. We've made a covenant and we're going to keep it, and it gets a little challenging sometimes, but we're going to do that. I want to talk to you about 2 or 3 things today, and then if we have time, I'll try to stay for a question or two. I've got to leave early, but we do have some business to do with the hurricane that I've got to get back to the Capitol for some meetings. I tell people, you know, that there's only one thing we have to do every legislative session, and that's pass a budget. And we have passed a balanced budget in Georgia with no tax increases for the 7 years that I've been honored to hold this position. And I'm pretty proud of that. And we have managed to do that, I think, in a very conservative, responsible way. And we do it kind of like we do at home with our family budgets, by prioritizing. And so I'm pleased that even with escalating health care costs and all the other parts of the budget that seemingly go up every year, that the #1 spending item in our state budget is education. Your budget last year in Georgia was $24.9 billion, which was a 5.3% increase over the previous fiscal year. There were, of the new revenue that came in, $775 million, or 62%, was budgeted for K through 12 education. And I think that says a lot about where our priorities are as a state. That included $162 million for a 2% adjustment to the state teacher salary schedule. We provided raises to more than 126,000 teachers, as well as a 2% salary increase for school bus drivers and school nutrition personnel, which I thought was long overdue. Your teacher retirement system is sound and is on good footing, I believe. I think it is one of the best managed teacher retirement systems in the nation. I just got back from a national conference of speakers of the House in other states. There were about 40, and one of the big issues that they're having to deal with in many states is pension obligations. And so they're wringing their hands and scratching their heads over how they're going to make ends meet and keep that solvent. They've tried to tinker with it, and they've tried all these new gimmicks and bells and whistles, but it just don't really substitute for good, solid management, which we have tried to practice here. You know, we have had efforts made here, even in Georgia, over the last 10 or 12 years, to have investments out of the teacher retirement system made in foreign governments, for example. I think I've told the story back from the 06 session when a bill got out of committee and got on the floor that would have allowed up to 20% of the TRS funds to be invested in foreign governments. I raised a question on the floor, well, which governments? Are we going to fund Hezbollah in Lebanon? Are we going to fund some of these terrorist organizations, let them invest into our system? Well, that came out. And so I insist on a very strict actuarial study of what works and what don't, and what is sound and what is not. I will tell you that I expect, as we're now entering into the political season, that you're going to hear more discussion about this. We've even got a candidate for governor, I'm not going to name his name, I'll leave that as a mystery. Y'all go find out who it is, that wants to provide a smaller pension to teachers in exchange for a flexible, whatever that is, 401k companion plan. That's exactly the kind of thing that, in my view, will subvert and weaken the entire foundation of our teacher retirement system and will jeopardize that covenant that I told you that we're going to continue to honor. So TRS currently has 218,000 active members and 118,000 retired members. The fiscal year base budget this year includes $223 million for the employer contribution rate of 16.81%. Next year, that rate will go up by 4.09% to over 20%. And the estimated cost of that employer contribution rate increase will be $400 million. But we are going to keep the covenant because I think it's, number one, it's the right thing to do, and number two, it's part of continuing our effort to provide a quality education to Georgia's young people by making sure that we continue to attract quality teachers like those of you were when you were in public education here in Georgia. So I'm pleased with where we are on that. I'm pleased with where we are on public education. But we've still got a long way to go. Can never rest on our laurels on that. Let me mention one other initiative that I like to talk to groups about that I'm pretty excited about. You know, in Georgia, over the past 6 or 7 years, actually going back to January of 2011, we have added almost 600,000 new jobs in the private sector. We are one of the fastest economic growing states in the nation. We've been voted 3 of the past 4 years as the #1 state in the nation in which to do business. Businesses are leaving places like New Jersey and Illinois and New York and Connecticut and Pennsylvania, and they're moving here, and they're bringing great, good paying jobs with them. We've got a movie industry here in Georgia, entertainment industry, more than just movies, that is growing. It's now, we are now the #2 state in the nation for the entertainment industry. We've got, and sometimes people, you know, down at the Capitol, we've got a few down there that want to find something wrong with everything, and they pick and scream about our film tax credit. Well, let me tell you about that, and let's see if you would like this kind of return. It's a $60 million a year film tax credit that generates over $9 billion a year. I don't know about you, but I would take that return any day, any hour, any minute of the year. North Carolina has just gone through tax reform. They lowered the personal income tax rate a whopping 0.5%. 0.5%. They did away with their film tax credit. And so about 6 months after they did away with it, they got me down to this new Pinewood studio down in Fayetteville, which has 6 sound stages down there and employs thousands of people. And I'm driving through the parking lot. And I don't know, I've always been this way. When I go to a parking lot, I like to look to see where the tags are from. Over 80% of the cars, or maybe more, were North Carolina. Well, I thought I knew the answer, but I had to ask the question. I asked one of the guys, and I said, what's all these North Carolina tags doing here? Because they're here looking for work. So they had driven the movie business. North Carolina was in the top 5, but they've driven it completely out of the state with that. Sometimes we have to invest a little to gain a lot. And I think strategic investment is a good thing. So we've done pretty well economically as a state. And so it occurred to me as I would go around and talk about, you know, that us being the #1 state in the nation in which to do business and growing jobs, that when I would be talking to a group in the metro area, they were all excited and smiling. And then when I go out in rural Georgia, they're like, well, you know, that's nice, but it's not here. So we decided, we've had some discussions at the Capitol over the last year or two, that it was time that this economic growth be spread around into rural Georgia too. Rural Georgia has challenges. We know it here with our hospital last year. We know it here when our young people have to leave to find good paying jobs. And so we have developed an initiative this past session that's going to be a 2-year initiative called the Rural Development Council to examine every single component of our economy in rural Georgia to see what we can do better, whether it's in education, whether it's in healthcare, transportation, infrastructure. You know, what we found out is that a lot of kids nowadays in school are getting assignments that they have to go online for. But if you live in a community that doesn't have internet close by, and you have to drive 70 miles to the nearest Starbucks to find Wi-Fi, then that homework's not going to get done. And so broadband is going to be an important part of that. Broadband is going to be critical to Georgia's future as a state, because I think one of the real cornerstones of our health care going forward is going to be this whole notion of telemedicine. But you can't have telemedicine if you don't have broadband. So we're looking at what we can do, not for government to create jobs, but for government to adopt and help create an environment where it's attractive and where there are incentives to come to Ellijay, Georgia, or go to Camilla, Georgia, or go to Blackshear, Georgia, and create jobs. And, you know, we have to think differently about jobs than we did once upon a time. Once upon a time, we thought everything had to be manufactured. Well, it don't have to be manufactured. There's a whole future out here in the state, particularly in agribusiness, for great jobs. Curtis asked me about the status of the inland port. One of the things that we are, that Georgia can be very, very proud of is that we are now dredging the Savannah River Harbor to create a port down there that will be able to service these large Panamax container ships that are so much larger than the ships that you've seen coming up and down the river in Savannah in the past. These things are huge, but we've got to have a place where they can get in and out of. And we're doing that. We have invested in bonds. We're hoping the federal government will do their share. We have done more than our share as a state. But we're going to do that port because that is going to be an economic engine that is going to fire up the entire state, and particularly when you connect it with what a system of inland ports that we're doing. We already have an inland port online in Cordele, and we have one under construction over in Murray County now. And so people say, well, what is that going to mean to me? Well, what that's going to mean is that the products that we produce here in Gilmer County and Fannin County are going to be able to, you're not going to have to drive those to Savannah or drive them to a rail yard in Atlanta. You can take them over there, put them on a refrigerated train or a non-refrigerated train, and they're going to go non-stop right into the port in Savannah. And it's going to be just a huge boost to our economy that I think is really unprecedented in the history of our state. And so we have to have a workforce that's ready to do that. And thanks to you that we're making progress in that regard. So let me close and I'll do a question or two before I leave, but let me again just say thank you for what you have meant to this community and what you still mean. Thank you for the honor of allowing me to represent you in Atlanta. I take that as a real honor and enjoyed getting back to visit. So, Curtis, with that, I'll stop, and if anybody's got a question or two, I'll try to answer it. I've got a very simple rule on questions. You can ask me anything. I just don't have to answer it. You're not the teacher today.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On that agriculture, I'm concerned about GMOs being planted around because of the danger to bees and the environment. What is the state doing about any fields planted with those kind of crops?
Most of that is federal mandates.
Do we have no control?
Excuse me?
The state has no control?
Very little, frankly. I asked Commissioner Black that question after you asked me that one other time. And, you know, we've gone through a period of time where the federal government has preempted a whole lot of things that we do. I hope that we're in an environment now where we can kind of roll that back a little bit, because I frankly think that states make the best decision for a state as opposed to Washington.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What do you see happening with casino gambling this year?
Oh, I don't know. I think the casino companies are a whole lot more interested in it than a lot of members of the General Assembly. I don't, yeah, that's a complex issue. The issue is, there's kind of two questions. One is, do you favor the expansion of gaming or gambling as a moral or political question? But even if you answer that question yes, then it gets really complicated. Because then the question comes up, well, how many casinos do you allow in the state? Do you allow one mega casino in Atlanta, or do you allow one mega casino in Atlanta and maybe one smaller one in Savannah, or do you allow casinos in 4 or 5 cities in Atlanta? So and there's a whole lot of debate about that. There's no consensus on that yet. And then the question comes up, well, what would be the tax rate? The casinos want to be able to tell you what they think the tax rate ought to be. I wish I could do that to the IRS and Department of Revenue, but I don't have that ability. And then another question is, then what do you do with the money? And I can tell you that every time there's the potential for a new pot of money to be created, you got all kinds of proposals about how to spend it. You know, I just sort of sat on that whole thing last session, and so near the end of the session, a group came in and they were wanting me to let it move, and they said, we think we've come up with a real solution here. So they ticked off their proposals, and they got into the part about divvying up the proceeds. And so the plan was, part of it would go to Hope Scholarship, part of it would go to needs-based scholarship, part of it would go to rural hospitals, part of it would go to mental health counseling, part of it would go to opioid addiction counseling, part of, I mean, they had about 8 or 9 things. I said, the only thing you haven't covered is pet rescue centers. I said, you know, this, you know, you can't be all things here. So, you know, truth of the matter is, I'm not really sure how much political support in the General Assembly there is for it. You know, I had I was in a town not long ago for a conference that had casinos. And, I just went out walking one day and I thought, personal, do I really want Georgia to look like this? And the answer was no, myself. So, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We've got a lot of election year politics going on next year, and I don't know if somebody will want to interject that as an issue or not. So that's one of those issues, frankly, that gets the media talks about a whole lot more than we do. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
The inland port that you're talking about in Chatsworth, Murray County, do you have any idea when this will be workable, when it starts opening up? I know it looks good now, they've got a lot done.
Yeah, they are working on it, and I'm going to, when I don't know the answer, I'm not going to tell you. I think it's either next year or maybe even 2019.
And a lot of people do not understand what that would do for Gilmer County. We have a timber industry in Gilmer County that people don't realize how big it is.
Yeah.
And not much market here.
Right.
And only a couple of sawmills now.
Processed poultry, apples, wine, timber. I mean, any number of products from this county can be transported on that. It's going to be hauling coal out of eastern Kentucky, eastern Kentucky, northern Alabama. I mean, there's going to be a huge number of different products that are going to go through there.
I just want to say thank you for helping Gilmer County with our grant for our parks department.
Well, thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
I got to go take a walk on that once I get that put in. Well, thank y'all so much for letting me visit with you. It's I always look forward to this day, and Curtis calls, and we keep at it till we get a date, and so thank you, and thank all of y'all, and please know that whenever I can help you, to let me know. So thank you. God bless you.